Hello. Welcome to the Bitcoin Review, where we'll boringly go over the majority of the project's news and updates, software, events, and everything you can think of that we want to talk about. So do take offense if we don't mention your project. Or do me a favor and actually contact me to let me know about your news, because otherwise I don't have a crystal ball. Anyways, thanks everybody for coming here. Today we have Justin Moon and Matt Odell as guests.
Yo, yo, yo.
It's great to be here.
All right, guys. So we have the list. Why don't we just go right into it? Because the whole point of this pod is to have the least amount of opinions.
Well, before we do that, MBK, I joined you for the first episode of this rip, and you told me you were just using me for engagement, and you were going to get new guests every week.
That's right.
And then you asked me to come on for week 2. So where do we stand on that?
Well, the problem is the engagement's still not good enough, so we might need a little bit more of a push, in a few more episodes. But then don't worry, you fizzle out.
I'm looking forward to the rug pull.
I mean, technically, we're already starting that by having Justin here, and maybe if Justin had his wonderful mullet on screen, maybe we would be able to replace you. But I don't think we're full on ready.
Hey, I know what I'm worth, NVK. Not so fast.
No, but in all seriousness, I'm very grateful for the two guests. They're very well known people in the community, and I very much appreciate their opinions about the project. So they'll be very helpful with us going through this list. And with that, let's start with the software releases and project updates. So BTC Pay Server 1.6. They apparently had a reasonably sized vulnerability that was disclosed via CVE, which is the correct way to make responsible disclosures. Note that people making disclosures, CVEs. They have a new Lightning dashboard. They have invoice receipts. They have automatic emails for every event, LN URLs, and Joomla integration. Oh, also NFC support plugin. So maybe that's helpful to me. So do you guys have any comments about BTC Pay Server release?
Well, I would just jump in here real quick. First thing is, I think they did a release right after this because there was a bug.
Oh, great.
So what is it? 1.6.1, I think, is the correct one.
All right. So I'll add that as a plus.
The key thing is they were very vague about the vulnerability intentionally, and they said they're going to release what the actual vulnerability that this release patches in 6 to 12 months. But if you read the blog post, it seems like it's pretty severe. So if you're running BTC Pay, you should definitely update ASAP is like the number one takeaway here. And one thing I would note is if you're using Nodl, you may have noticed that they haven't updated BTC Pay in a long time. First of all, Keto Miner is intending to. There was some like infrastructure that he needed to clean up on the back end before he could continue updating BTC Pay. So he's doing that. And second of all, BTC Pay on Nodl hasn't been updated in such a long time that it's not vulnerable to this vulnerability, this CVE.
See, my personal motto is don't update anything unless you really want the new thing that the update has, or it's found out that your specific version is at risk. Not updating is great. I must be running at least 3 or 4 OS X versions behind.
I gotta say, I haven't used BTC. I was a BTC Pay Power user. I was a BTC Pay Power user in the early days, and then haven't used it much recently. But the UI is way better than it used to be.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that is a reason to upgrade right there.
Yeah, no, it's starting to look like. So I have Stripe as our Cuckbucks payment processor, and Stripe is incredible, right? I mean, like beautiful UI, incredible API. Those guys are pros, and it's nice to see BTC Pay, the open version, right, of something like that, to start to look like very professional. It's very nice for merchants that are not necessarily technical. Do you know anything about the NFC support?
NFC, what, in BTC Pay?
Yeah.
No. How would that look?
I don't know. Just a caveat for most people listening. The list of updates is really big, So none of us has time to actually go through like all the minutia on it. We're just
also
gonna
love
comment on the
that
things we hear.
it's literally a podcast about updates, and MBK starts it off with telling you that he doesn't update anything.
Well, it wouldn't be right to put COLDCARD number 1. He had to put COLDCARD number 2. Just
exactly.
This is really just a massive Coinkite propaganda play. But as far as NFC goes, I mean, it'd be cool to see NFC in as many things as possible. Obviously, NVK is just trying to shill his brand new product that is
I have a
NFC
feeling that the
compatible.
NFC support that BTC Pay Server has nothing to do with our NFC. It's probably
but I
for
would
phone
say
payments.
Yeah, it's probably for payments at terminals.
Yeah, so
that's right.
If you click into it, it says if you have a browser compatible NFC phone, currently only Chrome on Android, you can use our point of sale to make NFC payments. So this would be like you can receive payments using this in the browser, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing. That's how so America never really adopted chip and pin. So it's just leapfrogging from chip and pin to phone NFC for credit cards. I think you're going to see a lot of that in the market.
One thing I would just jump in here real quick on the BTC Pay topic. In terms of like key security on the receiving side, the on-chain, it's really cool the way BTC Pay has it set up. So you never have to actually keep your keys hot. You can just keep your keys on a cold card or some other kind of cold storage, and you just upload the XPub. So you're able to receive to new addresses, but your keys aren't actually on the server.
Yeah, it's always been like that,
with
right?
Lightning, it's different. Yeah, with Lightning, it's different. I'm thinking from like the receiving side,
right?
About NFC support. You don't really need that.
So how is the LNURL withdraw for payouts and refunds is going to work? So you just do a like essentially a request payment back to the other counterparty?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm guessing they send you an email LNURL and you scan it and you get paid.
Okay. Well, traditionally, that's the big sort of drawback from a merchant perspective when it comes to Bitcoin and Lightning is that there is no pool version like credit cards do. So for subscriptions and things like that, it's tricky. Consumers won't pay unless you take the money from them. So yeah, we'll see how that develops. All right. So the reason why I brought up COLDCARD Mk4 505, it didn't actually come out yet. It's about to. It's because we are proposing a BIP85 password extension. So we want to extend the BIP85 to support password generations as well. So these are deterministically generated passwords. What's cool about that is, say you have a spare COLDCARD that you use for this, you can actually plug it into USB and make COLDCARD emulate a keyboard. So it pushes the password to the input field. Now, are you going to use this for Gmail? No, that's dumb. What you're going to use this is for like passwords that really matter. Say your SSH encryption password, your Cloudflare password, like things that you're a little bit more concerned that you don't necessarily want a computer password manager to have, but you don't want to have a bunch of backups. So imagine just having like a single private key that rules all your passwords for this kind of stuff. I think it would be very useful. So maybe we will send an email to the mailing list soon, sort of asking for reviews or suggestions. So that's that. All right. So Electrum private server. That's a Chris Belcher project. It was a small update. Essentially, he just fixed a few dependencies there with the new core. Oh yeah, and he had a Signet support. What else?
Awesome.
More Coinkite chilling here. The SATSCARD Tapsigner SATSCHIP. I listened twice because I screwed up. The bug fixes. We actually released 1.0.2 for the firmware on the cards. So for the devs out there, they have the old cards. Do request new cards because there is a few more checks on how the cards are verified, which made it even nicer. And the release is imminent. We should start shipping soon. And I'll bump this from the bottom there. And there is also a gallery now for SATSCHIP, so that artists can submit their art signed by their card with a picture, and essentially it's the correct NFT. And there is an NFC reader now in the store, and a CLI program for them to submit the art that they can sign themselves.
So the artist embeds the SAT chip, and then I guess you can tap it with your phone, and then it pulls up your website.
Yeah, so
gives you a bunch of information. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's that plus a little more. So essentially, you have a piece of data that essentially certifies the art, and then the new owner of the art takes the card. People were doing this with Open Dimes, but Open Dime was not designed to do that. So we figured, hey, might as well support that properly, and create the right sort of UX.
So it's basically a chain of custody for art, almost.
That's right. Well, I wouldn't say chain of custody is more like making art a verifiable bearer instrument.
Yeah, but you can say like this was originally from the
Yes.
the artist. Like you can prove like, cause that's always the problem with art, especially old artists. You don't know whether it's real or not.
Yeah, I mean, like technically you could sign any data, right? So, let's say you have like a whole sort of like plethora of like super high definition images of the artwork and all this stuff. You could create a hash of that and then sign that hash plus a few other bits of data, and put it out into the world. And that means that at least you have a chain of say provable ownership, or provability, certification of the art, really, through that, without needing a token or a blockchain. You could even put into open timestamps and break Bitcoin. All right. CK Tap protocol got updated.
Wait, do you want to go into that? Why does open timestamps
derivation
break Bitcoin?
Oh, remember, I think somebody pointed out that open timestamps actually caused a hard fork on Bitcoin or something. I was being kind of facetious, but I didn't bother looking into it, but apparently there was a problem with that. Justin, did you notice that? I think might have been on the mailing list or not?
I have not been paying attention to the mailing list. It's become unbearable.
Yes, we all agree that the mailing list became essentially Twitter now about tail emissions. It's literally unbearable. Tail emissions are not going to happen. Period. At least not on my node.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for debate. Just fucking fork and see what happens.
That's right, right? I mean, or create futures for it. Make a emissions an emissions fork token and put on Bitfinex. No, sorry, on BitMax. Anyways, moving on. CK Tap Protocol 105. It adds the ability of a non-hardened derivation. It's also Coinkite.
Oh,
okay. That's so that's essentially the protocol to talk to the NFC cards. We hope that this becomes a standard and other people use it too. Right. And then
just
really from that,
you have what you have. You have 5 Coinkite updates in here, right?
No, I'm actually deleting the last one there because it was just double entry.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know, the thing is, like, if other projects did the favor and sent me more stuff, to make my life easier with this, it would be great.
So what's the best way for them to send it? Just to let them know.
Yes, that's a great idea, Matt. So what people need to do is either go on the website, click on the right side, and submit story, or email me at bitcoin.review@coinkite.com, or go on the Telegram. Any of the places really. I mean, or go on GitHub on the next pull request for the next episode and comment there. That'll be great. It is a challenge to find the specific things. So doing best efforts here. Oh, and by the way, my wife mentioned listening to the first episode that I do not introduce myself. I did tell her that it's probably a good idea. Anyways, so moving on.
Live and learn.
Okay, so I mentioned. Oh yeah. So the reason why we mentioned the CK protocol, aside from being a properly boring update, is that the CK Tap React Native library, there was a bounty on that, and that was claimed by the Hexa guys. And the Hexa guys built a React Native library for the Coinkite cards. It was released. There's still a few more things sort of to be fixed, but it's getting there. And so that was fun. That was a cool bounty being claimed. Check out the Bitcoin Bounty, bitcoinbounties.org. There is a lot of Bitcoin there up for claims for devs. All right. So now moving on to Zeus version 0.6.5 release. Now you can send to Taproot. You can receive to Taproot. They have some enhancement Android NFC support. I wonder why. And they have a much improved Spark support. Do any of you Lightning guys have some comments on that?
I fucking love Zeus. Zeus is the main way I interact with my Lightning node. Shout out to Evan and the rest of the team over there. They've made really good improvements on interface. The interface is very, very clean right now.
Nice. Yeah, Zeus is a pretty cool project.
I haven't used it since they did the whole UI redesign.
It's much better now.
It looks sweet now. Yeah, it looks. It's very Greek. It's pretty cool. The aesthetic they got going on there.
It's way, way, way better.
Yes. All right. Blockstream QT, Green QT release 1.1.2. So they refactored the JSON conversion. They fixed the UTF-8 memos. That's a nice one. And they fix for assets with no ticker or issuer. I was actually using it today, and the USD quotes were not showing up. So something must have broken with their Bitfinex API. I wish they would have more choices of price sources. Do you guys use Green at all?
I haven't used Green since in like 5 years or 4 years or something like that.
They're new. This is very recent. One pet peeve I had is that I like their wallet. I just hated their weird multi-sig thing. So I was waiting for them to launch single sig for small amounts, right? With that specific UI that they have, and they have. So now that works, and it's nice because it has a desktop version too, right? So you can have a spending wallet that you have two sources of interaction points.
Do they have coin control yet?
So I like that. No.
I know they like make it easy to do accounts. They make it easy to do accounts, so you can use that as like a quasi coin control. But it'd be nice to see actual coin control with labeling.
For the very, very small spending wallet, I don't really care as much. I have sort of like different wallets for different things. That's kind of how I
do you actually use Liquid
for spending wallets? No.
I feel like that would be the main reason for me to use it if I was going to use Liquid, which I don't. Because like why? I might as well just use
to pick up a bit.
If I want an on-chain only wallet, I'll use Blue Wallet.
I like Blue Wallet. The problem is I've been having a lot of issues with transactions getting stuck, negative fees, and all, like things like that.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Well, for spending,
you said you could spend on.
Yeah.
You could do desktop and mobile. How do you share the seed between the two things?
Oh, it's the same. You load the seed. It's the same derivation path, so it doesn't matter, right? the transactions just show up. Yeah, the metadata doesn't, right? So you have to re-input the metadata. Which for all these wallets that have a server, I mean, why don't they just do end-to-end encryption and like based on your seed, right?
I'm pretty sure they do that
so
for don't the accounts show up? I thought they
No, the accounts do, but not the notes.
Right, not the
on each transaction.
But I thought they don't have coin control. You can do notes on each transaction now.
Yeah, but only on the way out, right? Not on your TXOs.
Oh, I see. Okay, like if you
because that's what you need for accounting, right? It's not for privacy sake. It's just for accounting sake.
Funny story. That's probably one of my largest open source contributions was Green Wallet was not end-to-end encrypting their account labels, and I pointed it out to them and said you should just encrypt it with the seed, and they did that. So shout out to me.
Yeah, no, we've been champions on this for many years. I really can't comprehend why any project that has a Bitcoin seed in it would require you to do accounts, to do passwords, to do anything, because you can just use the seed to be your private key for the other stuff. Like, I brought this up with Hugo with the Nunchuck, and Nunchuck does that now, so you don't have to create an account with Vimeo anymore, which is nice. And they are added a single sig now. Man, Nunchuck is looking awesome. I think it's gonna be the next one that sort of like everybody uses. It's all native too for both platforms. They rewrote everything, and you know they don't do like the JavaScript guys where they serialize, deserialize, serialize, deserialize, serialize, deserialize the secrets 50 times in different like parts of the software. That adds a lot of holes. Anyways, pretty happy about that. They don't have an update this week. Right, next, Sparrow 1.6.5. They added Nano Ledger Nano S Plus support, probably because HWI got updated a few weeks ago. They allow now watch-only key stores to enable signing from matching connected hardware. Oh, that's nice. So essentially what that does is, as long as the key store matches, I think, the XFP, right? So the ID of that wallet, I think it's hardware sort of agnostic. It doesn't matter which hardware device has the private keys. As long as that XFP matches, it should just recognize it as that signer.
Yeah, if you set the wallet up with Trezor and then move it over to a COLDCARD, you can still sign with that because the XFP is derived from the seed. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, right? I mean, it's actually even more secure. Like if like the software wallets don't even know which hardware wallet you're using, that would be my preference. Anyways, import gap limit from Electrum wallets. That's great. That's also a really nice feature for people who are migrating from Electrum. So now you don't have to worry about like going on a gap limit hunt to find your coins. That's nice, and lots of bug fixes. I'm sure I took the liberty of changing the last point there.
Well, massive shout out to Craig Raw, who's the lead maintainer and pretty much like the one-man legend behind Sparrow Wallet. It's quickly become my favorite desktop wallet, and the idea that basically he was sitting there and he was like, I don't really like all the desktop wallets that are available. I'm going to build my own is one of my favorite parts about the open source ecosystem and the Bitcoin ecosystem.
I mean, that's how the best projects always start, right? Like it's people who can do scratching their own itch. That's how I think like most Bitcoin projects started, including Bitcoin itself. Satoshi was sitting there. I wish I could send money without permission. Yeah, I'm gonna start Bitcoin.
Yeah, he came to our meetup in Austin a couple months ago, and it was interesting talking to him how he chooses features and stuff. He said he basically waits until some other project Craig
Raw,
Wright,
yes,
from Sparrow.
Craig Raw.
No, Craig Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he just waits for another project to prove out some idea, like BIP47 or some of the Samurai coin joining or the HWI and these things. Just waits for it to work, and then he implements it in his own wallet, which I think is kind of a nice, an interesting attitude. He just waits for someone else to prove that it works, and then he just sort of waits for this to happen, and
out there, hardware too, especially stuff that just works, is that there is essentially like one or two great dudes who write all the hard stuff, most of the stuff, and then it's sort of like it gets sort of like released through this like beautiful marketing package of a company kind of thing. But for the longest time, Facebook had like 4 guys who did all the merging of the 5,000 engineers in the company. You know, Google Google has this entities called independent consultants or something like that. Is essentially people who are not HR compatible. And these are the people who actually do all the hard shit at Google, and all of them essentially just report directly to an executive as a consultant, so they don't have issues with HR. Um, it's kind of fascinating to me that to this day it's still pretty true in like most hard stuff out there. And it kind of makes sense. A lot of projects are essentially like the presentation of like just like a handful of people. Um, it just gets sort of like filtered and softened by the marketing department. Anyways, all right. So next is Blue Wallet 6.3.1. It was a tiny release, but in between that there was another one, the 6.3.0. So I figured I'd bring it up. So they fixed the Lightning Wallet fail under Tor. The passphrase support on multi-sig, that's nice. Import BIP39 multi-language. LN URL off. I have some comments on BIP39 multi-language. I am not a fan, generally speaking. I am an English maximalist when it comes to BIP39 because I think a lot of people get screwed. Their variation language may not be supported by most projects on the day that they need, but the base version, which is the language, the English version will, and it's also the simplest, smallest character subset. So I just want to stick it out there that if you can use the English version, even if it's not your native language, it's probably safer and better.
Isn't that counterintuitive in this point? Because you're saying that it's hard to restore from the other languages. Well, now it's easier because Blue Wallet's available for iPhone and Android.
Yeah, but that's one.
It's
right?
completely false.
And what if they're not around?
Well, it's completely false, and you can
support.
It's false, and you can use it with your own node. So, I mean, I think this is a massive win for multi-language.
Like, people can't build their own iOS wallet that easy.
But I'm saying, like, if Blue Wallet, the company, disappears, you can just take the previous release, and now you have strong multi-language support. I mean, I talked to a lot of people in Latin America, for instance. They really struggle with the English words. So it's kind of good to see at least, the major languages supported.
I don't know. I mean, like, I learned English not too long ago, and
you're still learning,
even
clearly.
though I get a lot of spelling mistakes and everything. I'm surviving. I listen. I think it's a very awful way of like existing in the world by like sort of forcing your language choice on the rest of the world. But at the same time, it's very hard not to, because unlike like say for example temperature that's only got like really 3 main contenders, languages have like hundreds. Um, I don't know. It could get very dicey, especially when you start supporting passphrases as well. Then there's like the checks for it. I think there's going to be a lot more rooms for bugs as well that won't be known because nobody's going to test all the languages on the software. I just find it risky for stuff that is like this core to your financial existence. I would personally avoid it.
Well, I mean, there's two things there. I mean, I think I agree with the recommendation that if you can use the English words, use the English words, you get more support. But also, if you're not, this is a massive update for you.
True. Options.
Start9
Embassy.
In 10, 15 years, I bet they'll. In 10, 15 years, I bet all languages will be supported. So it's it just takes a while to get there.
One thing I did notice was there was this shitty Chinese wallet that sent me. It was a hardware wallet plus mobile phone app that sent me
a few of those.
That sent me a free hardware trying to get me to shill it, and they were unsuccessful. But I noticed some other Bitcoin accounts did shill it. I'm not going to name names right now. It was a while ago, but I did test out the wallet. And they used a non-standard number system, and I didn't love that. But also at the same time, I talked to their team, and they have mostly Chinese speakers, Mandarin speakers, that really, really struggle with seed words as a concept. And for them, they were like, numbers are universal. So they went with this number seed setup.
Well, the problem with the numbers, you're gonna need a lot of numbers.
Yeah, there were a lot of numbers.
The entropy space is a lot smaller, right? So yeah, I mean, there were no letters at all.
It was just numbers only. This was a couple years ago.
Jesus, how long was the seed? How long was the number?
It was pretty long.
You would have to be. Oh man. Well, it really is. Was it 10 to the 256?
Well, what they might have done was, now that I'm thinking back, they might have had the numbers correspond to the word list numbers.
Yeah, no, that's still valid. I've seen that before. That's probably it.
How many? There's 2048, I think, seed words.
Something words.
Yeah, 2048.
2000 and something words.
So each. So there's four numbers, up to 4 numbers for each word, and that's what they did.
Oh, no, that's reasonable. I've seen those before for backup, and I actually quite like it to just use the number for the word. But that's just remapping, right? That you're still safe there, and you're still leveraging everything that BIP39 is.
But that's actually an interesting balance. I don't remember exactly how they did it, but that's an interesting balance when you talk about multi-language support. If you do the numbers based on the English, the main English seed word list, then you still have, if that wallet disappears, they can always pull up that list and then get the English words and import somewhere else.
All you do is pick 12 or 24 numbers out of 2048 without repeating them. That's very, very straightforward.
Right, plus the checksum.
No, the 12 includes the checksum.
Right, but you can't do that randomly. You have to derive that from the previous 11 or 23, right?
Yeah, you have to derive the last one. So they will probably make them pick 11. Well, not knowing the wallet, but the way you described it, I assume that the user has no choice in which how the words are picked. I'm sure it's just given to them.
Yeah, zero choice. They just give it to you.
Security. I'm sure they use UDEV to generate entropy from Android. Anyways, okay, so moving on to Start9. EmbassyOS 0.3.1 was released, and they have a new password reset flow, selective backups, Java execution environment. I assume that just means that it's a segregated environment. Library to import your Embassy package projects. Ability to sideload packages directly from the Embassy dashboard. And they did a bunch of other little improvements. I think I saw some other EmbassyOS update. Something about making it easy to do something. Let's take a quick look here. Oh yes. So somebody made a wrapper or a guide to make it easy to import or run Bisq on Start9. That's pretty cool. Bisq is a very interesting project for people that want to trade off KYC exchanges.
Oh, that's got. I think that's a first for one of these node projects.
Yes, there is a web UI I haven't used in God knows how long. I've actually been curious if they do gift cards.
Are there any other node projects that offer Bisq support?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I can't imagine it's that hard to integrate with the other nodes since it's sort of. Well, if anybody heard about it or is from another project, this is a great chance to show your project on the next episode. Just email me, and we'll list it. We are very interested in updates of projects. All right, we're moving on to the next list. I call it the noteworthy list. So it's not necessarily software releases, not necessarily just software, but it's like stuff that people are working on that got released or is going to be released. So Marshall, if you guys know OGBTC on Twitter, he released this video using a board that him and some Chinese friends created to overclock an S19, okay, from 95 terahash to 111 terahash, without changing the firmware, without doing anything. So no warranty voided. It's essentially a man in the middle. It's kind of brilliant. And I think they were selling for like around $200 or something like that. So he was taking orders from Twitter. That's pretty cool. Mind you, this is a guy who runs one of the biggest mining operations in the world.
I mean, that's pretty massive. What is that? That's like almost a 15% performance improvement.
Yes. It's just pretty cool. I mean, I just love that people are doing that, especially guys like him. It's like, I'm sure he's not running that in his mind.
Well,
but
now
just like
anyone
for the Blib miner is really cool.
Anyone who's running an S19 that's not using that is at a disadvantage now.
Yep. What else? Nunchuck Tapsigner. Nunchuck did a demo using Tapsigner to cosign. So you just tap, give the pin, and you cosign a multi-sig via NFC. That was really, really cool. They're going to release that version of the app soon. I happen to have a version of the app. APK is really, really nice. What else?
When you release that demo video, is that you doing the demo?
No, that was Hugo sent it to me.
Did you see I called out that it didn't look like it was your hands in the RHR, and Marty said it was your hands, and I said, nah, I'm pretty sure those aren't NBK's hands.
You know my fingerprint.
Yeah, so just shout out to me on spotting that in the video.
Well done.
Glad we got that settled.
Have you seen? So this Mike Kelly guy on Twitter, he created a private club essentially, and he's creating a authentication with the cards to do. Essentially, he wants to do proof of reserves for tabs, bar tabs, where you just leave the card on the like a SATSCARD, a loaded SATSCARD. You leave it with the bar people as a collateral. And also you use it to authenticate to get into the bar, into this private club. I found that to be kind of cool. I think that has some legs.
So does that mean you have to be demo app? Does that mean you have to be a certain level of wealthy to enter the bar? Like, is it like if you don't have 1 million sats, you're not allowed to enter the bar?
No, I'm sure they will just they'll make the tab the size of your collateral. Probably that's it.
I mean, the entering is kind of cool because you can attach memberships to the private key, public key pair. But when it actually comes time to paying at the bar, I feel like that's kind of old world thinking, the tab concept in general. Like, why not just every time you get a drink, if the NFC works really well, just tap to pay every time you get a drink instead of giving them a card to hold on to.
I mean, I don't know. I like the idea of collateral-based interactions, especially with bearer instruments. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's the way it works. Maybe just tap with your Lightning wallet to pay each interaction.
I'm just thinking, like, I have, I prefer cash, but I have a lot of alcoholic friends, and some bars do a tab system where they just swipe your credit card once, and then they give you back the card, and then other ones hold on to the card. And when the places hold on to the card, I've seen many times people wake up the next morning and they're like, "Fuck, my credit card's still there." And at least they have the ability to cancel it. They have like fraud checks and stuff. But if you like leave your Bitcoin at the bar, like that would fucking suck. I think
this is a little different, right? Because this is for private clubs. Like that was his idea. So maybe for the private club, there is like other benefits that you might want to leave your collateral there. I don't know.
But then if you have a
maybe.
So I know I'm like I'm thinking out loud mostly, but we just launched a private Bitcoin club in Nashville called Bitcoin Park. That's where I am right now, and it's a membership system, and so like I've been thinking through these things as well, and we know who all our members are. We have 100 members.
Can you please show the Bitcoin Park for people that don't know listening?
Bitcoin Park is a social club mixed with a community center, mixed with a co-working space, mixed with an event space, mixed with studios for recording, located in Nashville next to the two major colleges. It's community supported, so we have 100 in-state members that pay an annual fee, and then we have 100 out-of-state members that pay a reduced annual fee. You get one of those little key cards that allow you to enter the facility anytime you want, 24/7.
Connection stopped. Hey, Matt, can you repeat? Because
I think it's still recorded because it records locally.
Yeah, but it didn't record on my side. Well, unless it does upload, right?
Yeah, it just uploads afterwards. So I think everyone heard the Bitcoin Park shill, but we're about a month and a half old. We just had a meetup here yesterday. Had over 250 people here. And I guess we had the meetup 2 days ago, and a lot of people stayed. We have hotels that are close by that we have partnerships with, so you get reduced rates. We're going to have private events, public events, the whole 9 yards. So we're very excited about it. So if you are in the Midwest in the United States, consider stopping by. We'd love to have you.
Very cool.
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few meetings with people yesterday that were all hangover from the interactions that they had at the Bitcoin Park this week.
Yeah, we like to do it.
It was more than one.
That's why I was thinking through the tab idea.
Oh, and by the way, the Bitcoin Magazine office is also in Nashville, right?
Correct.
And I heard from them that they love when people drop by.
Correct. As well, yes. Nashville just got a really strong, booming Bitcoin community. It's really cool to see it grow. I think the mag now, Bitcoin Magazine has almost 30 employees based in Nashville here.
Very cool. All right. So now moving on to this Lightning Network PCB. There is this guy on Twitter that tweeted at me called Suferoid. Lots of cool PCBs on this account. He said he was going to send me more information about this Lightning Network PCB. It didn't happen. But I assume it's sort of like a Lightning like point of sale or something with a custom board. Anyways, it looked kind of cool. The link is on the notes if anyone is interested. All right. So maybe this is where Justin will have some comments here. I did not spend too much time on it. Space Chain by Ruben. This is a permissionless, one-way pegged Bitcoin sidechain. All value goes to BTC holders. All fees go to miners. Stable coins, NFTs, low value payments, DNS, scams, all the good stuff can go on top of this. It seemed interesting because it does the one-way peg on Bitcoin sidechains, but it did not seem to need anything from Bitcoin to change to exist, which is always welcome.
I guess the main trade-off here is
look into this?
The main trade-off here is that because it's a one-way peg, you can get in, but you can't easily get out, right?
Yeah, that's true for most sidechains, right? That are federated, or I don't know how is the validation of this sidechain works.
I don't know. I haven't really looked into this very much. I know it's very promising. Their Telegram is one of the best telegrams for technical stuff. There's a lot of really interesting there. And I know Ruben just got a grant, who's a Bitcoin Core contributor, and he's like at Druve on GitHub and Twitter. So I assume that means he can program well. I don't know. They just got like a grant to actually try to build a space chain, because he posted like a little implementation that about 5 months ago. That's not. It's just like a proof of concept. So it sounds like they're actually trying to build it, which is exciting.
Very cool.
Daruv is awesome. We had him.
A lot of it is around like trying to get the ecosystem of a shitcoin going without the creating new tokens. That's basically what he's trying to do. Like anything you could.
My view on this is that the market wants a means to scam everyone. No, just kidding. That's a lot of people. But no, the market really wants a means to create essentially a security, right? And Matt, you're fully muted. So anyway, so the market really wants a means to create a security, right? And so far, the most successful version of that is the Ethereum shitcoin. But people really want, a way to sort of like sell shares of whatever their thing is. As long as we're honest about how centralized that is, I don't see any problems with that. And I think that should be done on top of Bitcoin. All the value should be done on top of Bitcoin. By the way, on the list we have a link to Ruben's presentation, which I hope to watch soon. He presented space chains on advancing Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean it's very similar to drive chains with like the blind, the merge mining and stuff like that.
Well, merge mining is kind of a problem, right? It has the wrong sets of incentives.
Yeah, I mean I think that as far as I understand, all the same things would apply here.
So it's hopeless. I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe there is like a few sort of small tweaks that make it so he actually makes it out. I don't know if he got a grant and there's a lot of people interested. It must be substantially different than Drive Chain, which went nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems with Drive Chain is that the implementation that like there is an implementation, but it's like 20,000 lines of Bitcoin core code. So it's just they've always Paul's never really found any reviewers for that because it's just like it's sort of too much,
Right. All right. Moving on to silent payments. That piqued my interest, but another one that I didn't have a lot of time to look into. Let's just click here. How silent payments are bringing new privacy protections to Bitcoin.
Yeah, so it's like BIP47. Like it's kind of like I don't know, like Bolt 12 or any of these where you get like a static. Well, it's like you get a static thing, a static address that could be paid to multiple times for privacy. So you can't link the payments that are sent to it. And so the way like the existing thing that works right now is BIP47. And so that's anchored in an op return. And so the one problem with that is that if you get change from your op return and you like, I think there's like, it kind of assumes that you're in a CoinJoin wallet, right? Like in Samurai, Sparrow, the projects that like standardize this, the change is just mixed, so it's not a problem to have change from an op return, but it's a little harder with like if your wallet can't do coin joins, then it's BIP47 could potentially be a foot gun. That's at least the complaints. With I'm just trying to remember exactly. Silent payments, there's no Unchained footprint to set it up. And how it works is that you publish some sort of a key, and then you have to scan every block that comes in. And there's an algorithm to combine your static key with the first input that pays towards it. And so the receiver has to go scan every block, every transaction, and check whether the first input to this transaction combined with your static, address, pays you. If it pays basically whether this is spendable by you. So it doesn't have the on-chain footprint to set it up, but there's a lot of operational overhead in terms of scanning every single block forever.
But that's kind of like a reasonable trade-off, right? Because one is, unfortunately, we have computers that can just keep on scanning blocks for it. We already do that for transactions anyways, right? And the second thing that is nice is that there is no coordinator. I really like that. If I remember right, with BIP47, you do need a coordinator.
No,
right?
you don't need a coordinator.
No?
That's the whole point.
You're back.
I was troubleshooting something. You don't need a coordinator for BIP47. That's the whole point of the op return notification transaction, and you can recover. You can recover directly from seed. Now, Samurai and Sparrow both have something called PayNIMs integrated as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought the coordinator was.
No, but that's just a centralized server that connects the BIP47 payment code to a human readable name. But technically,
that's a terrible thing, because then you're just creating a link between things on a centralized entity.
But anyone can run those servers.
Yeah, but nobody does.
Linked to a BIP47 payment code. Alternatively, you can just use the BIP47 payment code, but I don't think that's a valid. It's not a valid, when you talk about the trade-off discussion between silent payments and BIP47, that's not valid, because anyone could also make a silent payments centralized server that links it to a human readable name as well. So that's not really valid for the actual protocol conversation. And then to what Justin said about the op return change being a potential foot gun, I mean, to me, it's the alternative is people are going to use static reused addresses that are obviously horrible for your privacy. So if that change is an issue, then the alternative is also
think it's
horrible.
Probably better. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of linking future addresses to a human legible thing that is sitting on a server somewhere. That would just be my non-preferred set of trade-off. Assuming you could do the same with silent payments. I don't know. It's nice to have more options. BIP47 is quite old, and aside from Sparrow Samurai, it never really took hold. So maybe the new one is the sort of set of trade-offs or implementation that people like, and it takes off. The privacy space in general, it's unfortunate that it's so small. There's 4,000 coins in CoinJoin on Samurai, and
the biggest
markets, it's small too. And
the biggest issue with all these things is, if you're thinking about something like BIP47 or silent payments, usually probably the number one use case would be a donation use case, where you post the static address or the static code or the static QR code, on social media or wherever you're going to post it, and then people can easily pay you donations. And the number one thing in donations is you don't want friction. You want people to be able to easily pay you. So it comes down to wallet support, right? And so
but Matt, nobody should be doing donations on chain anyways for small amounts, because sure, today the fees are very low, but generally speaking, that's what Lightning solves.
Okay, so then silent payments doesn't solve that issue either, is what I'm saying, right?
I agree.
The issue is okay, so even if you have, one or two wallets implement silent payments, it's still not going to be useful for a donation use case until you have a large amount of them doing it. So that, someone can open And let's be honest, a lot of people are using regulated custodial services. Like if you can't pay it with Cash App or Kraken or some shit like that, you're just going to get way less donations.
Here's a case I like this stuff for. For example, let's say I have a supplier or another partner of Coinkite that we do a lot of business together. So we have a lot of sort of like Bitcoin transactions back and forth. It would be nice to have essentially a non-expub way of getting new addresses for them, where we can sort of transact between each other a lot. So that's sort of like a case.
Okay, so that's fine. Then you don't really need massive wallet support. You just need a wallet that you both agree on.
Yeah, for the donation stuff, I'm sorry, man, but like the Lightning stuff makes way more. No, and I'm the Lightning bear.
Okay,
so like I still think the Lightning makes a lot more sense for all that stuff because transactions are too small in value.
NVK, I pay a lot of attention to like the donation use case in Bitcoin. Partially because obviously I make a lot of content that is audience supported and relies on donations, but also because I've been doing a lot of work with the HRF and activists. And if you look at it, like the Lightning step adds a lot of complexity, particularly for activists, right? So if you look at the Canadian truckers situation, if they're going to accept Lightning as their donation use case, they need to figure out how to have an always up node that's has hotkeys, that has good liquidity and reliability.
See,
Wait one second. So like
the truckers didn't want Bitcoin.
Okay, but the trucker, let's say the truckers did want Bitcoin.
Wait, hang on. Bitcoiners decided to fundraise.
Okay, but that's not my point. That's not my point. My point is, if you're an individual protester somewhere and you want to accept donations in an adversarial environment, On-chain is uniquely suited for that. They just need a relatively standard protocol to be able to post something static up there that doesn't reuse addresses. Yeah, because then they don't have to deal with liquidity. They can do it all from their mobile phone. They can keep keys offline if they want to keep keys offline relatively easily.
Yeah, but then none of them are using Dojo and they are all like doxing themselves to a centralized entity.
Look, once again, this is not my point. I think even in an activist scenario, if you use a wallet without your own node and you're using it through Tor and it's through on-chain and you're not reusing addresses,
it is an improvement.
That can be very helpful for people in adversarial environments. And unfortunately, we just don't really... So you made a good point there that Canadian truckers didn't want Bitcoin. Well, let's say they did, right? Let's say protesters want Bitcoin. The major takeaway to me of that debacle was the current landscape, the way it was set up, is there was one large centralized donation pool managed by, relatively...
You can take JW for that.
Relatively few individuals that then was spread out, right? So what you really want to see is you want to see all the individual protesters be able to basically run their own donation campaign. So you have a bunch of little ones, right? And then you start to talk about, okay, so how does enforcement of that look? And it becomes whack-a-mole.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's not a simple problem, and there is just too many trade-offs and too many separate solutions. So I don't think we have good answers to that yet, but I think they're coming.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows I'm the most prolific Fedimint shill now, and we have Justin Moon on the pod. But I do hope that Fedimints provide a interesting trade-off balance for activists and protesters in adversarial environments that want to receive donations.
Come on, Justin, shill Fedimint.
We're doing it a little out of order.
Yeah, it is. We were going to talk about Fedimint like later, but you know what? Like, why don't we just jump to Fedimint? I'll switch the order on the notes. I think it's totally worth bringing it up since we're in the topic, anyways. It's a fantastic solution, and Chaumian servers are not like new, which is kind of great too. Yeah. It's like proven technology.
Yeah, so it's in terms of like end user experience that Matt is referring to, it's Chaumian eCash, Chaumian Mint. So basically what that means is it's a custodial thing where somebody has to deposit some asset into a mint using the traditional terminology, and then you get a little bear token, a bear IOU. And so with some magical crypto called blind signatures, the what the mint sees when a deposit is made is a blinded message, and they produce a blinded signature. And then the user is able to unblind the signature and turn it into just a normal signature. And so when they want to redeem this IOU, they present this unblinded signature. And so the key thing is that whenever Mint sees a redemption of an IOU, they can tell that it's real, that it's valid, but they can't tell which deposit it came from. So your anonymity set is everyone else who's deposited, and not just like the moment of actual deposit, any transfer of these IOUs. And so that's the idea. And the original paper was from like 1982. It's had a checkered history of deployment, partially because generally you had to have a centralized mint in order to do this because fiat doesn't have multisig. And so Eric Sirion's, one of his ideas was that, well, Bitcoin has multisig, you could make a federated Chaumian mint. So hopefully it would be a little bit less of a honeypot. And so that's how FediMint got started. It was an attempt to build a Chaumian mint and then a federated Chaumian mint and then a Chaumian mint that one problem with this is like you get these little IOUs, right? And so if I'm in one mint and you're in another, we have no way to exchange because our IOUs are different, are just incompatible. So because different authorities on what is and isn't a deposit. Lightning allows you basically like a way to settle between these mints. So yeah, you could. There's some potentially like very powerful private. It's a potentially very powerful privacy tool, and yeah, it's very early. Like we just so the little news item here is we just merged the ability to receive Lightning payments. We've been able to send for a while, but now we can send and receive. So that gives you an idea of how early it is. We're just trying to get it sort of to work. But kind of along the way, like Fedimint has become very. It's really interesting. It's basically a framework for building federations now. So everything's extremely modular. So right now there's an Unchained wallet, a Chaumian Mint, and then a Lightning interface. But in the future, you could build all kinds of things on top of this. And any sort of app that you wanted to run in Bitcoin, if you wanted to split the trust across multiple parties, you could do that with Fedimint. So I think it's like an interesting idea that's underexplored. So that's what got me interested in it. And yeah, that's my show.
Oh, that's really cool. I've always sort of like loved the original sort of idea and concept that like Blockstream had way back then about sidechains that just took too long to launch and had maybe the wrong set of trade-offs. But the idea of having a single source of truth, right, where it's Bitcoin, and then you spin off all the sidechains, in a different sort of technology than Liquid, right? It's super powerful and resolves a lot of problems because different groups of people may want different set of trade-offs, but they probably still want to share the same source of truth, right? And Bitcoin provides the best security there is in the game. It's just nice to see more stuff being actively worked on this space that is not just Liquid.
Yeah, a really cool thing about Fedimint is that you could build Liquid on top of it pretty easily.
Nice.
Not easily, but like you could do that. It has, out of the box, it has a consensus algorithm. It has a way of deposits. The deposits work the same way as Liquids do. And you could probably run some of their code. Like, I mean, Liquid isn't open source, unfortunately, but if it was open source, you could just probably run a lot of that code inside of it, and to get the confidential transactions, confidential asset stuff.
HSM closed, right? I don't know.
Sorry,
I can't remember how much of their stuff is open. Is there HSM that is closed, right? Not Liquid itself.
I think the functionary, what the functionaries run, the people that run each federation server, I believe that's closed source as well.
Yeah, that's not great.
So yeah,
that won't get adoption.
I mean, I'm a fan of Liquid. I think think it's a cool thing. Like, yeah, I like the idea of it, and yeah, I mean, it's not like to say that this is it doesn't, there's still like there's a lot of useful tools in Bitcoin. This isn't like the be all end all, right? There's
No, of
still
course, and I think none
reasons
of
to use
them will.
Everwall, still reasons to use, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I think that when it comes to networks, the 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 protocol implementation must be like open, not GPL, but like actually MIT, right? It needs to be
Yeah.
open in a way that any party can do whatever it see fits, including monetizing it closed, right?
Yeah.
That's how you get networks to expand.
Yeah.
But the business logic and everything else running on top, that's your own business, right? So when you build a network that the network implementation is not open, you're not going to get buy-in. That's a huge problem.
You guys keep mentioning Liquid. I'm curious, Justin, on your opinion here. I mean, when I think about Fediments, I don't think of it in comparison to Liquid. I think of it more in comparison to something like Wallet of Satoshi, which is a completely custodial, non-privacy preserving from your custodian Lightning wallet on the phone, which a lot of people are using. And your project kind of offers you a way better trade-off balance, which is reduced custodial risk because it's federated, and privacy from the custodians because of the Charming eCash. So to me, I almost compare it more to like those custodial Lightning wallets that currently exist rather than something like Liquid.
Right.
Yeah, so that's I'd agree with that. It's the end user experience is going to be like that, but some of the reasons that make it, some of the ways it achieves these trade-offs is that it works kind of like Liquid. So like the implementation is similar to Liquid. The feature set at the end from the end user is going to be different.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of Chaumian
I mean,
mints, right? Like
this is what I want to use from Lightning. Like what I
right.
want to use from Lightning is a custodial thing where it always works. I want it to never fail, and
Yes.
I want it to be private. That's like what I want as an end user. So I think hopefully we can find something like that here.
Yeah, no, the idea of not having to manage your Lightning node stuff would be great with privacy, right? Because it is substantially less monetary value, so I don't care about the security as much, right? So it would be nice to not care about babysitting it either. uh, I really hope that we can see something like this resolving the Lightning trade off for Custodio.
The other key thing
Or
is when you're talking about Lightning trade-offs is on the privacy side, particularly if you're talking about the donation use case that we were just talking about, where you want to post something, maybe you're in an adversarial environment. All else equal, receiving privately on Lightning is way more difficult than sending privately on Lightning. And to that effect, we've actually seen a lot of privacy-minded users. They will receive to a custodial Lightning wallet, and then they'll send to their own wallet, which is ridiculous and has a lot of footgun potential. And you're trusting the custodian with that. So a Fediment wallet could provide a very easy, convenient user experience that preserves privacy on the receive side of Lightning.
so, Justin, do you see this specific implementation of Chaumian Mint being able to produce like other tokens of types, like other things aside from trying to transport essentially a Bitcoin UTXO in a way?
We'll see. I hope so. I hope we can build other things on top of this.
Wait,
It's always
so
a
are you
question
seeing it
with
gonna be
what's
on
actually.
consensus with that mullet next year?
Oh well, all bets are off. I don't know. My focus is just actually trying to build it. Like the other interesting thing about Fediment is that it's extremely high quality server code. Like it's
Hmm.
written in a good language, Rust. It's the code is very readable. It's very well organized. It's really good code. Having looked at some of these other projects I won't name, the code quality is higher here, and so like it's a high wire act to build like a daemon like this that is like that non-technical people could run and it just works for a few years, for example, right?
That's great.
It's like I think this project could actually achieve that that level of quality that it's hard to get there. So that's part of my reasoning here is I think it could do a lot of different things, and I think it's going to be solved through really really high quality software, which is not how like that's the best way to solve things, and not a lot of projects solve their problems in that manner. A lot of projects solve their problems by throwing frameworks at problems and throwing all kinds of deployment and all kinds of crazy shit like that, rather than just writing really really good software that is modular and doesn't crash.
Well, it's nice to hear that there is good software being written because it needs to be good software for its sake.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see.
No, it's exciting. I mean, like there is this sort of like mentality a little bit, probably because it came from the shitcoin space, where everybody needs to like create this sort of solutions that need to talk to each other, and and I'm of the opposing view on that. I think that's stupid. We really have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the source of truth and is how you settle, right? On sort of like your base settlement layer, right? I think we should have had 5 different Lightning solutions that don't talk to each other. Like there were 50 papers for payment channels. So if you divide that by 10, you should have had 5 competing implementations that were trying to do different things and don't necessarily interact with each other. I think we would be in a much better place right now. So it's just nice to see more different things being tried. So props to you.
Yeah. So if you're talented, give me my final show. If you're a talented Rust developer, that's really what we need. We basically have 4 contributors right now that are consistently working on it. So if you're a talented Rust developer, would like to become one, send me a DM, pop in the Discord listed on our GitHub README.
Nice. And do follow Justin on Twitter to get updates about. That there is this meme that nobody uses Liquid, so there is this new project using Liquid. So I figured I bring it up because we all win if all the projects get a lot more use. So it's called the Liquid Fuji Money. It's essentially a place to borrow Bitcoin-backed stablecoins, synthetic stocks and all that stuff. Without, so it's essentially like a decentralized way to borrow with some collateral to do things. That must be there must be a demand because there is a few of these platforms and they all seem to have enough users to be able to afford to sponsor podcasts and throw conferences.
It's basically DeFi on Liquid, right?
Yes. As much as I'm not a huge fan of that stuff, there is a market and there will always be a market for this stuff, right? So I rather this stuff being built on top of Bitcoin. That's my thinking.
My only thought is their graphic design is incredible.
What?
I was just saying that their graphic design is incredible.
Nice. Well, that's good too, because that brings users.
Yeah.
And I like the .money shitcoin TLD. GTLDs are shitcoins, but I have a bunch of them, so might as well have fun. All right. So the Unchained guys have now a new trading desk. And they are expanding, and you can what's kind of cool about that is for the people who want a more sort of hands-off approach to their cold storage. These are good people, and when people do transactions and they buy Bitcoin, they can put straight into their cold storage what the vaults that they do with you. I know a lot of boomers or family offices or sort of like entities that may need a third party to handle things regardless of how we feel about that. So it's just nice to see that there is sort of like this more vertical integrations on how people handle these things, because it does reduce the attack surface a lot. So good for them to do this. What else? Bitcoin S merged on Taproot. Justin, do you have opinions? I don't.
No.
Yeah, it's just adding essentially test vectors for Taproot. I figured it's worth mentioning. So Casa now has an API for people to integrate their solution into. Again, more interesting stuff happening. Like these products are trying to sort of like find their niche and sort of expand. I like the idea of people trying different things. What else? Here. Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting one here was Hoseki. Hoseki's a startup that's doing proof of reserve.
Yes.
So it would be kind of interesting to see, like if you could, like you got your Casa balance, and then your Hoseki produces a proof of reserve, and you can go, get a small business loan or something, stuff like that. I think that's kind of cool to see how it's the stack of little.
So here's the problem that I have is that, just traditionally speaking, just proving that you have the coins probably won't get you a loan. I think they're going to want to hold that collateral, because the problem with Bitcoin as collateral is that Bitcoin is extremely soluble, right? So technically, I could just run away with it. And the reason why traditionally people use real estate as collateral is because you can't run away with it. So I think we're ways off from having Bitcoin collateral. Sorry, Bitcoin being used as proof of essentially reserves, proof of fact that you have money to pay back a loan, without the counterparty having ways of taking that collateral.
First of all, it's two different. Like, it's not all or nothing. I mean, you were excited about the proof of reserves for that guy's private club, 15 minutes ago.
Wait, no, Mike. That was collateralized. So the bar person holds your SATSCARD with your collateral on it.
Okay,
it's a bearer instrument.
The second thing is, first of all, you can see I could see a world, at least in the beginning, where there's a combination where maybe you see something like Unchained or HODL where it's a non-rehypothecated multi-sig custody mixed with additional proof of reserves. Also, when you do go out for loans, a lot of times they just want to see like a level of income, or what stocks you hold. They'll ask you to get like a brokerage account sign off, or you're trying to get a rental somewhere, and they want to see if you're actually able to pay your rent for a year going up.
Do you know why, Matt?
Maybe that landlord would see that and be like, okay, well, this person at this time has proved that they have, a couple $1 million worth of Bitcoin. Obviously, they can afford their $3,000 a month rent. I'm going to approve them for this. The second thing that's really cool about this is because it's, using the native fact that you have these cryptographically verifiable signatures. Once you do that proof of reserves, whoever your counterparty is can see if you've moved those assets, right? And they know in a verifiable way that you've moved your assets. So there are a lot of advantages there as compared to something like a brokerage account saying, oh, like he owns 200 shares of Apple stock or something like that.
So one thing I've sort of I realized in the last sort of year, let's put it this way, like looking around the loans, playing around with those Bitcoin backed loans and stuff, and talking to a lot of like loan brokers, essentially, and I finally sort of really internalize why they like traditional assets. It's because of the friction, right? If you want to liquidate all your stocks and get the money back, it takes a few days at a minimum, right? And some brokerages will take like even longer than that for your little stuff. So, and that friction buys counterparties time for trying to get litigation done, and there is more than that. When you liquidate some of those assets, that already takes time. They go to your bank account, which is also capturable, right? So it's a whole chain of capturable stuff. That's how the whole legacy world works. With the new Bitcoin world, nothing is capturable and everything is low friction, right? So technically, it could be in a different country the next day with all your collateral. So the flight risk is a lot higher. So I personally think it would be a little harder for Bitcoin to be used as collateral without having it as a share custody or something. However, the idea of being able to prove that you have a certain net worth will be easier for things that are forward going, like rent, for example, proving that you have enough cash flow to pay rent. It'll be harder for loans, but easier for things like the rent situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, everything obviously has trade-offs. I think easy proof of reserves with Bitcoin. Like, look, Bitcoin natively already has proof of reserves. You can just sign a message, right? That functionality has been around forever. Now, when you're talking about people that are not necessarily very in tune with the Bitcoin world, they want to see some kind of, they want an easy flow, they want a certification process, they want all these other things, right? And that's kind of where Hoseki comes into play. I think I agree with the trade-offs you've mentioned, but there's also some novel improvements there over the way a lot of this legacy stuff works, right? The legacy stuff, like there's a situation where obviously, like if a brokerage account had like an open API or something, or API agreements with lenders, that lender could have real-time balance updates and can tell like if you're liquidating your stuff or not. That's not really the world we live in. You basically like print out a brokerage statement and you bring it to the bank, or you like fax it to the bank or whatever, and they
could literally Photoshop it.
Yeah, and they put it in a filing cabinet, right?
And send it to them.
Right, but Bitcoin proof of reserves and a project like Hoseki could make that significantly improved in different ways in a very interoperable, easy way, right? Because you have this interoperable standard that is the Bitcoin blockchain.
I do love the idea of anonymizing essentially the proof of ownership or the collateral size, right? Like, or proof of reserves, really. Anonymizing that is a huge deal as well, so that you can use this essentially, like, just this hash or signature to prove something without actually showing the addresses or anything to a third party. It's kind of similar to DIDs in a way, right? You have a more transportable anonymized thing that is just better for everyone. All right. Oh, here's one that I didn't have time to look into it or get the links, but I wanted to add to the list, is Robosats. I've heard this sort of going around a bit. It seems like people are into it. I know nothing about it.
Robosats is a pretty cool project. I'm pretty excited about it. It's basically a lightweight P2P exchange for Bitcoin to fiat. Presumably, it could be Bitcoin to other things as well in the future, but right now it's Bitcoin to fiat. It runs all internally in your browser with everything done locally, so the lift is very low. You can use it from mobile. You can use it from desktop. You can use it from an iPad or something. And you have to use Tor. It's an onion link. So the whole project runs behind Tor and defaults to Tor. So you have relatively decent privacy guarantees. You have low lift, easy UX, pretty convenient, and it's run by NIMS, which you love to see with a project like this. It's actually very easy to monetize because they just collect fees, so it's sustainable. It doesn't have to rely on open source funding like grant funding or something like that. It is an open source project. They did something really cool so you generate your keys when you first load it up. Those keys are used for everything. Obviously, the whole thing is Lightning only. They do have swap out functionality, so you can withdraw to an on-chain address, but by default, it's all Lightning. And they use those keys actually for the messaging platform. So you have like a chat messaging when you're doing the exchange. Every message is not only end-to-end encrypted, but it's also signed. So when you do have disputes and you have to go to the Robosats mediator, It's not like he said, she said screenshots. It's all cryptographically signed messages.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's
how
just
would you compare it to Bisq?
Yeah, exactly. It's trying to solve the same problems that Bisq is trying to solve. But Bisq on their trade-off model tried to basically make something that is more censorship resistant or more regulatory resistant. While Robosats is like, we can just do this thing centralized, but we'll do it behind NIMs using Tor, and make that lift way easier. So you don't have to run your own node. You don't have to do all these other things.
So I guess the risk there is just capture, right? If something that the state doesn't like goes through it, they would just sort of go to the server, see who has the credit cards there, and go after them. Correct. But they don't really have any information about the users anyway, so it really is a sort of it's what I like to call a cat and mouse project.
It's kind of
I hope they stay around for long enough.
I don't like making this example because it like implies implicit criminal activity, which I don't think this project's about.
The state may deem anything illegal, right?
No, I know, but where I was going with it is like the trade-off model is similar to most darknet markets, is what I would say. Right.
Okay. Yep. Cool.
Nice that it all happens in the browser versus Bisq.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have to install anything.
Heavy-ass Java. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bisq also has a ton of technical debt. This is all, brand new and built from scratch.
Well, I mean, between this Bisq is old, right?
There's this and one other project that's currently in stealth that I'm not allowed to talk about. Both trying to tackle the same thing, which is P2P Bitcoin trades without KYC, and I think the future is bright there. I'm pretty excited about it.
What's really nice about this is, the state completely failed at taking down dark markets, even being centralized, just 50 pop up after. So, with a new way of sort of implementing these things based on Bitcoin, based on Lightning, you get to a point where they'll just give up, right? Like it's kind of like become selective enforcement, where if there's a dude smoking pot on the street, like most people, like police doesn't give a fuck, and then they would just pick one guy that they don't like to deal with it. Not that there is anything illegal about what people are doing, but just realistically speaking, that's how all the state actors behave, right? They just, when they cannot make something captured, they will just do selective enforcement,
100%.
Which is even worse if you think about it. But all right, so this is the other part of the show. If you haven't been bored to death yet, we're moving on now to the Bitcoin Optech newsletter, which is even more boring.
We probably have dozens of listeners still with us at this point.
Yes, I know there's just
even
one.
Your wife will probably drop by this point.
All the wives are dropping at this point.
Oh, she dropped after the fact that there was no intro. All right. So Bitcoin Optech, for people that don't know, is a fantastic sort of source of Bitcoin information, especially about core. It has commentary in it. I'm a big fan. It's dense, even though it's still a summary of what actually happens. We're not going to go through point by point. We're just going to sort of like pick at it. Since they have one newsletter per week. So I have the last 3 weeks that we missed sort of like listed here. I just figured we just sort of like glance over, just because there's a few things that are worth glancing over. And if you guys have comments or want to take tangents on any of this stuff, be my guest. All right, so this one is really cool. I had added earlier on the Noteworthy part, but I moved it down because just to compress everything. I'm pretty excited about this. So half aggregation of BIP340 signatures. So it's essentially half aggregation of Schnorr signatures. It was Jonas Nick. I think his is Nickler on Twitter. And it was and it's under Blockstream's work. This is kind of like a huge deal, because it's going to bring a lot of privacy, a lot of efficiency in transactions, It's still early work. And actually, the best way to describe it really is it's non-interactive half aggregation of signatures. And one of the parts that I'm most excited about this is the non-interactive part. So essentially, interactive signatures require all the parties to essentially be, for lack of term, online together at the same time, re-signing each other's stuff, which creates like huge UX problems. It creates security issues. It makes it for a very hard thing to do in the real world. And this solution removes the interactive part. So now each party can do their own bit of the signing by themselves in their own privacy of their own tinfoil hat environment. And then the half aggregation part, maybe Justin can have some opinions, but essentially what they're doing here is they're aggregating signatures because Schnorr is linear. So you can just put all the signatures together and make it look like a single signature, which is not possible with the current Bitcoin SPAC. So this is going to open a lot of doors for Moosig and other things like that still don't have a SPAC. And this is it's a very, very big improvement to Bitcoin itself, even though it's going to move at Bitcoin glacial pace. So even though we're excited, just don't get too excited to start using it anytime soon. Opinions, guys?
So when you're doing music now, does the signature get bigger? The more is this saying like the signature gets bigger?
I don't think it does. I mean, not if they're aggregating them in the Schnorr way, right? It's supposed to just be, at the end of the day, just a single signature. But if I remember right, I haven't been following for a little while.
Well, this is
but
half the size of the original
yes,
signatures individually.
But I think so. But the biggest issue is I don't think there is a formal Moosig implementation or spec yet. I think there's just sort of like ideas and commentary. There's no actual Moosig.
I think there's a spec. Like I know in the Rust community, there's a Blockstream has a project called SecP256K1-ZKP. It's kind of like their testing grounds for stuff. Like that's where Schnorr showed up a couple years ago, and then now it moved over. So
it's not just. I don't think it's Blockstream. I think that's just the experimental version of libsec.
Yeah. I mean, I think the spec is pretty good for music too, in my understanding. Like stuff like Frost and Roast are still being that allows it with like K event, right? So N event I think is pretty well defined, but K event is still they're still trying to figure out, and that's pretty heavily interactive, which sucks.
Yes, the interactive part, it's going to be nearly impossible, or it's going to be essentially server with server talking. Like I still,
it might not ever work with cold storage.
Yeah, like essentially you're going to have to be connected in order to achieve the level of interactivity you need. So that's why I was essentially pretty excited about the non-interactive part of this solution, which works for cold storage. So yeah, so there is that. This is dense stuff. So if you want to, go read more, I have lots of links on my notes, and the Optech guys do have more summary on it, if I remember right. So go read about that. So that's the notable part that I wanted from their last newsletter. Now from the one previous to 207. So they brought up the long-term block reward funding, which I wanted to bring up just because the amount of noise on it. I still think that tail emissions is it will cause more problems than it's worth. I mean, you could still debate if that's if reward issues are true or not, which I don't think they are, but it is debatable. The solution around having tail emissions is a no-go, because once you open the door, who decides how much reward is enough reward? And that just essentially becomes a a absolute pit of sorrow. So I don't think you ever go there. My solution personally is just decrease the block size, make scarcity higher on block space, and problem resolved. And we get more decentralization with that too. Guys, if you have an opinion on on tail emissions, now is the time.
I mean, I think that it's just not on the table as a possible thing unless like the system is basically failed. You know, like if Bitcoin just is getting massive 200 block reorgs, and until stuff like that happens, I don't see how this could ever get how this would ever really happen. You know?
Yeah, it's mental masturbation to talk about it so early. And then besides that, there's really no reason for any kind of debate because anyone can fork Bitcoin whenever the fuck they want to fork Bitcoin. And if you want to fork in a tail emission, you can fucking do it. And we'll see how the market responds to that. And this idea that Bitcoin adds a tail emission is, in my perspective, is the wrong framing. Because if there is a fork of Bitcoin with a tail emission, if there's a fork of Bitcoin without a finite amount of Bitcoin, there will always be the other chain, the existing chain that doesn't have that in it. And there's pretty much zero situation that I could see where you know that original chain doesn't win that fork war, but there's even less chance that there would be like a complete wipeout and you just wouldn't have that other chain in addition to it. Someone would end up changing their algo, their hashing algo or something like that. But I would say that I actually, if we're going to keep talking about this, I would love to see some, really, really wealthy backers of this tail emission idea so we could get a nice sizable dividend on that fork when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I am not opposed to airdrops. I think airdrops are healthy. I see it as a Bitcoin dividend. So I totally in favor of this. I just have a feeling that the dividend will be so low that it won't be worth our while because, ideally you move the funds from your keys before you do that. So not worth the while. My dear friend Peter Todd is probably bored at this moment, so he is championing tail emissions. Peter, I think you should go maybe climb a taller mountain. Love you very much. Now, moving on to... Okay, so there is a new regression tests for RPC. I think these are related to Taproot. It's to help L2 protocol and other applications who want to use package relay on core. RPCs. So here's one thing I don't like. I think we brought up on the last episode. Drama. The idea of making RBF not default. RBF should be default because double spend is possible on Bitcoin by default. I like RBF to be the default because it's essentially just formalizing something you can do regardless if people agree with you or not.
I mean, the only reason you wouldn't want that is if you want like the standardness rules to allow you to do zero conf transactions easier, right?
But
it's basically the only.
It doesn't matter. It can still be
sense.
doable.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really
bad.
The
problem.
That's a really bad reason.
Yeah, like
you shouldn't have the relay nodes of the network protecting your zero conf transaction. You're just using it wrong.
The way I like to say it is zero conf is not Bitcoin because it's not your Bitcoin yet.
Yeah.
I actually heard Wiz.
It's almost like. Sorry, go ahead.
I heard Wiz put it in an interesting way. I mean, Wiz runs the most popular mempool in the world. He calls transactions that are in the mempool, zero confirmation transactions. He calls that layer 0, and then you hit layer 1 once they're confirmed, which I thought was interesting framing.
Yeah, the RBF and zero conf discussions is essentially like shitcoiner mindset sipping through Bitcoin, which does sipping through Lightning a little too much. it's like, sorry, like the whole point of Bitcoin is finality. Pre-finality is not your fucking coin, so don't do anything with it. um anyways, it is a topic that annoys me because it's essentially rehashing the whole Bcash bullshit all over again for different reasons.
We're just it's always going to be eternal September with all this shit.
Yeah, no, it's
we're just going to constantly
the same with block size.
I don't know if you've noticed, like on Twitter lately, I barely even tweet anymore. I just retweet stuff from years ago because you can mostly just go back and you have the response already ready over there.
I need a bot that essentially searches for the trending tweets of the day and then go finds tweets of mine from say 7 to 8 years ago minimum, and he finds the correct response for that and it posts as a response onto those tweets.
I'd pay sats for that.
Yeah,
where's
right?
The bounty?
Okay, fine. We're gonna put another bounty on bitcoinbounties.org. Okay. So next is we have a merge for adding Taproot additional fields on PSBT, so PSBT involving. BDK is setting up in nLockTime of new transactions now. Okay, so is that it's anti-fee sniping solution? Okay, yeah. You guys have any opinions on that?
It's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it just basically says this is like if the current block time is X or block height is X, it just says, hey, I'm not allowed to be mined in any block before X, just to discourage a miner from like doing an intentional reorg to get some more fees, like which is a valid, like this is kind of a valid complaint in like a low fee environment, is if miners are incentivized to reorg a little.
Right, but they could still mine it if they want to. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like one of those things. It's like, okay, yeah, it's cute, but I don't think it will do anything network wide. Maybe if it became the standard for most wallets.
I mean, I guess
it's if hash isn't attempting to extend the chain, if it's doing other things, that's
the better framing would probably be fee sniping resistant, right? Because obviously after that block, you could still do fee sniping.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. The 206, which was the previous to the previous to the previous. No, the previous to the previous. That's just two previous of previous. Okay, what is the largest multi-sig quorum currently possible? Andrew Chow did some work on that. If I remember right, for P2SH is 12 out of 12. At least we managed to do that on Coinkite.com way back in the day. I don't know what is possible now.
This says 20, but I've never tried it.
In my head, doesn't Electrum allow you to do 16?
Yeah, but I don't think it was 16 out of 16. Because you wouldn't support that many signatures. So I think we're essentially what we're gonna write. Because see, I think the main problem is an implementation problem, not a network problem. So I think essentially the bottleneck is always gonna be just the transaction size that will fit the network. That's it.
Yeah.
You're essentially gonna fill a whole block. And COLDCARD can sign that now.
There's something about how Optech works. There's something about how Optech works that's
right.
I think it slows down if it gets bigger. It's like kind of combinatorial or something.
Well, the issue with pre-taproot is that is quadratic, right? So the size of the transaction is exponential.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to get big with multi-sig. But Schnorr, it won't matter. You can make essentially any size. You can have like 100 signers, and it's still going to be a single signature.
This will be one of the first really interesting things for like the Musig Frost roast type things is, like Liquid could do 100 functionaries, for example. Now it's basically rate limited by how many multi-sig people can be in a multi-sig. So that would be kind of an interesting trust model for if you had like 100, a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of people. It's harder to organize some sort of a defection. So that's a
Well, I mean, especially if you have a contract for, say, your collateralized loan, whatever thing you're doing, like it would be very interesting to have a lot more players with different weights on that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these things will be best for the stuff that's like online, like for cold storage type things. It sucks because it's so interactive. But for anything that's any like online multi-sigs, like this stuff will be really interesting.
I think we managed to bore Matt. This is success. I can see him sitting talking to somebody else in the studio.
No, we have Bitcoin Park vibes are high right now. So I have multiple people in the studio with me. I noticed earlier you said, Matt, you're muted. That was intentional because I was talking to people in the studio. But I'm also a crazy person. So right after this 2-hour rip, I'm gonna be doing another 2-hour rip on Civil Dispatch. So a couple of those guests in here, a couple of those guests are in here and they can't hear. One of them can hear because he's got headphones on, but the other one can't hear, and he's just sitting there just wondering what the fuck NVK is talking about for so long. So I'm just trying to keep him updated on timing.
Matt's goal is to be in every podcast episode ever.
Yeah.
Of all Bitcoin.
Not everyone. Only the good ones. Only the good ones.
Well, they're all good ones.
Dude, there's a lot of bad ones. Open your fucking eyes.
No, I don't listen to the bad ones. Probably that's why. Okay, we're almost done with the show, guys. Now we're just gonna list a few Bitcoin events here because it would be nice for them to get some notability. So there is the ABDC Bitcoin Design Meetup in Austin. I don't know if it already happened.
No,
it's gonna happen.
It's a reoccurring thing.
It's a reoccurring. That's why I wanted to bring up because it's for designers, right?
Our producer on our other podcast, Rabbit Hole Recap, Carr is helping spearhead this thing with Paul Miller, Future Paul, and they're really excited about it. I'm pretty excited about the concept. Basically, trying to build the same type of communities that we're seeing in Austin with the dev space, but in the design space instead. One funny thing, Carr became producer of Tales from the Crypt, which is blatant trademark infringement on the HBO show. So like every single Carr project now is just all play off. Like ABDC even the logo looks like the band. He has like Pleb Broadcasting Service is one of them. Stacker News Live with initials SNL. Like, so he got completely inspired by Marty for the wrong reasons. And I hope he sees a lot of success with it, but I hope that doesn't blow back on him on the trademark side. I love that dude, by the way. Carr is great.
Satire is okay.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. So Bitcoin Magazine has the Bitcoin conference in Amsterdam. Maybe Matt knows the dates. I don't know the dates yet, but I think I might go.
They're the same dates as TabConf, which is unfortunate. But I do think they're, different events. One's in Europe, one's in
is that mid-November?
America. It's October. I want to say, I'm going to get shit for this if I get the dates wrong. I think it's October 12th through 14th is what I want to say.
I'm probably not going. Man, why don't they listen? Conference organizers, okay? Listen, do your conferences in the North American winter. So essentially starting post my duck hunt trip. So after mid-November, all the way to say March. Essentially, while the ice is frozen, it's good timing for me.
What were your dates that you wanted?
So essentially, it could be most of November except when I'm hunting ducks, and then from mid-November all the way to end of March, it's all fair game.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, there's the El Salvador.
Maybe you need to start a conference as well. NBK.
Yeah, I mean, you started a podcast. Why don't you start a fucking conference?
Come on, go all the way.
That's not a bad idea.
I'll tell you one thing: we're not coming to Canada for it, though. The
at the moment, I don't think many would.
But anyway,
no, Brazil is one way.
Brazil would be cool. The Amsterdam venue is fucking awesome. Bitcoin Magazine is working with a local Amsterdam team over there. That's one of the reasons why the dates were locked in, because they're partnering with them, and those dates were chosen by them.
Hey, which event is which venue is it?
I don't know. It's fucking awesome.
Is it secret?
It's public. I think it's called Westergas. Is the venue? It's like right on one of the rivers or large canal.
Yeah,
it's a large
rivers.
body of
everything is a river there.
I love Amsterdam. Amsterdam's an awesome ass city. So if you're interested in that, that's b.tc/conference. Then at the same time, TabConf is happening in Atlanta, run by Michael Tidwell. That is an absolutely awesome high signal conference. And you can find out more information for that at tabconf.com.
Okay, I'm gonna add TabConf here. So I was in Amsterdam for Bitcoin 2014. We had a booth there for Coinkites. There's some pictures online. It's pretty funny. It's me and Doc Hack sitting on a booth with Bitcoin terminals.
You should send me that picture.
That was one of the most professional Bitcoin conferences ever. What?
Send us that picture on Signal. I'm curious. After the show, you don't have to do it right now.
Yeah, no, it was something. There was this
hard to imagine the two of you sitting at a booth.
I know, right? And no, here's the best part. There was this guy, I'm not going to mention names, from way back then, from like the Bitcoin Talk forums. He shows up slightly inebriated. He buys 50 Coinkite terminals at the booth. And he we're like, it's going to take, like a month or two for this to go. It's like a skid. And he's like, yeah, whatever. He ships to his hotel in Amsterdam, right? Like, he's staying for the conference. 2 months later, the terminal, they're stuck in customs. And this guy's like, I don't want it. It's like, I'm like, dude, like, deal with it. Anyways, fun stories from back in the day. He got kicked out of the conference because he was too drunk. Who was it? I think was it Coinbase that had a booth with a keg on it? Anyways, fun, interesting days, guys. All right, so next one is also keep an eye for adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador. I don't have the date, so go check the show notes.
That's November. That's November like 14th or something like that, I think.
Right, that's my duck hunting trip. And then there's BTC Azores.
And you left off Riga. Riga's not listed here either. That's September 1. Did he just disconnect? Oh, he's going to be back.
Conference.
You forgot about Riga as well.
Oh, yes. There is also Riga.
Riga is a great conference run by the Hodl Hodl team. Riga is a beautiful city. Everyone speaks English. Very cheap. Good beer. Good food. I think that's September like 1st to 6th or something like that.
Yeah, we did manage to. We've learned that the bar will stay open as long as people are still at the bar, and we kept one of the bars open. They had to buy the beer from the other bars because we emptied their stock. That was a fun night. So one of the last updates here. Our good friend Matthew Mazinski, who runs it's essentially what's it, Bitcoin Crypto Voices on Twitter.
No, he changed the name to Porkopolis Economics.
Yeah, Porkopolis. Terrible name too. I keep on telling him just basismoney.org. But anyways,
or it should just be Bitcoin Voices.
Sure, I told him that too. But anyways, so Matthew is probably the only person on earth that has the correct money supply, the basis money for each currency. Everybody else has it wrong and wrong by a lot. He's the foremost expert on this crap, and he puts incredible work out there and reports. A lot of the stuff he releases free, and he has an interesting thread on why CBDCs won't come. I highly recommend people checking out if they're interested in this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Matt is fucking awesome, and he has to. The governments don't make it, and the central banks don't make it easy for him. He has to go manually scrape all this information most of the time. So
and he recalculates and he runs the numbers, man. He's the only person who does it for this stuff. People buy his reports to do big things. So yeah, guys, that's all I had before the show closing. Do you guys have anything, any stuff you're working on that you want people to know? Places to find you?
If you somehow, first of all, NBK, it's always a pleasure to join you. I have pretty strong assumption that you're going to have me on for the next episode as well. But if you're somehow listening to this podcast and not my other two podcasts, consider searching Citadel Dispatch and Rabbit Hole Recap on your favorite podcast app and clicking subscribe.
Matt is feeling the competition. This was born because Rabbit Hole Recap does not cover software updates anymore.
Dude, just launch your own fucking conference.
I don't have time for that. I have to build products, Justin, what do you have to say, sir?
Conference.
Ooh.
Join us at chat.fediment.org. Join our Discord, especially if you know how to use Rust.
Okay, so Justin has two things to say to you, Fedmint, and if you do Rust, go work for him.
No, work with.
With, yes.
MIT license.
No, work for Justin. Justin is a smart guy. Go work for him. He'll be a good boss. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Someday. Own it.
Someday.
Anyways, guys, I am extremely grateful that the two of you joined me for this incredible 2-hour boring read of all these updates that we barely covered half of what's happening in Bitcoin. I hope that you will unsubscribe and unlike my show, and you'll tell all your friends to do the same. And I refuse to introduce myself. Find me at NVK on Twitter. And I created a Telegram for the show is Bitcoin Review Pod. The link is on the site. The Twitter for this show is Bitcoin Review HQ because pod doesn't fit. And the email is bitcoinreview@coinkite.com. My idea with this is to get project maintainers to get off their asses and send me a shareable, so long didn't read version of this, of their updates, ideally as a comment on the GitHub pull request for the show's new episode notes. And we want to show things that people are working on this space. Like, nobody talks about the actual project. So they just talk about macro crap and the price and mining and other things I'm not interested on. So please let me know about your projects. I really, really, really want to talk about them, even if it's completely ignorantly on this pod. And if I can, I will keep on bringing guests. Maybe Matt will make it to the next one. Maybe he won't. You won't find out until you listen to the next show.
Look, if you rug pull me, I might have to launch another podcast. So we'll see what happens.
Wait, how many podcasts do you already have?
Look, there's history there. It's not an empty threat.
That is true, actually. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. I need to pee now. All right.
MVK's closing statement was, "I need to pee now." That was the last thing on the podcast.
I mean, it's true.
So I'm pretty sure it just uploaded my local version that Zencastr
keep
recorded.
On stay there until everybody's uploaded, because I don't trust this shit.
I'm also saving the MP3 that my computer recorded, and then starting at 11 minutes, I recorded locally to my mixer too. So I have 2 local copies, Matt, and I think 1 local copy went to you. And your internet fucking sucks, bro.
Knowing